On this episode of Your City at Work, we're going to talk to one of Paducah's newest team members, City Manager Jim Arndt. Thank you for joining me on this episode of Your City at Work. I'm Public Information Officer Pam Spencer. Efter conducting a nationwide search for a city manager, Paducah found an incredible addition to our team. He didn't have to move very far. He moved here from Effingham, Illinois. Please welcome City Manager Jim Arndt. Hi.
Well, good morning.
Well, good morning to you.
And thank you for using the word incredible. That's fantastic.
Well, you have been an incredible addition. And we have a good 30 minutes of all kinds of initiatives that we want to talk about. But I first want to start with going back a little bit. What attracted you to come to Paducah as city manager? Why did you want to apply for this job?
That's a great question. A lot of people have been asking me that same thing. It's just a wonderful opportunity. You know, the city of Paducah has a great reputation throughout the Midwest. You know, growing up in Central Illinois and spending time there, you know, graduating high school there, and then going off to multiple different states, living in, you know, Missouri, Ohio, and back in Illinois again as a administrator and manager. Paducah's reputation is one that was envied and rivaled throughout the Midwest. And when this opportunity came up, I thought this would be a fantastic opportunity for me to come down to see if I can continue to add to the strengths of the community.
Well, tell me a little bit about your background. I believe you started off as a police officer?
Yes, well, in a roundabout way. I've kind of had a little diverse background. I had, of course, graduated high school, went to the U.S. Army, served there for 3 years, spent a couple years over in Germany, and then, of course, down in North Carolina for my last year. And then after that, I came back and was hoping to go the traditional route of straight into school. And I tried that it lasted about a week, and I determined that it wasn't going to be my route, that type of thing. So not yet, wasn't quite prepared for it, not mature enough for it yet. Okay. So then I went off and worked in a couple different factories in Mattoon. There I enjoyed that experience, but I always felt like there was something else, an additional calling that wasn't being met, that type of thing. And then so I went to law enforcement, as you said, and I served as a police officer for the city of Mattoon for 6 years. Wow. And then again, doing that, I also felt like that wasn't really where I wanted to be. It wasn't what I wanted to be when I grew up. And so I found the path of city management and tailored my education that way, and earned my bachelor's degree and master's degree, and struck off to serve in that field and capacity, and took my first position doing that over in Union City, Ohio. Okay. Then after that, I served there for about 4 years and continued to grow my profession, and went to the city of St. Clair, Missouri. And then after that, after 3 years there, went on to Effingham, Illinois, my latest stint, as you just commented upon. I was there for about 8 years, and this opportunity came up, and it was time to continue to spread my wings and fly, if you will.
Well, what skills did you take from all of those different experiences and different positions that you're bringing to Paducah? You
know, it's been a wonderful opportunity to grow each community I've been to. I think the most impactful for me was Union City, Ohio. My first stint as a administrator, which is very comparable to city manager. There, it was a smaller community, and I remember back when I left the police force, my comrades in arms, if you will, kept telling me, hey, it's such a small community, what are you going to be doing there? And I always told them, I don't know, but they're advertising for the position, so apparently they need somebody. So I went there, and it didn't take me long. In fact, it was the first day to realize that I was going to be busier than I ever anticipated.
You were doing everything.
I was doing everything. You know, I was the public works director, I was the city engineer, I was the code enforcement officer, I was the zoning administrator. I learned so many things about public works and infrastructure, zoning, code regulations, building enforcement, property code maintenance enforcement. I just got bathed in it. In fact, when I went back for my I was fortunate enough to be able to win an award at Eastern for my graduate studies. I went back and I spoke to one of the professors, the chairman of the department, and he asked me if their educational program prepared me for what I encountered on the job. And I said, it really gave me a background on what I needed to know, but it didn't give me any of the specifics. And if you guys would have talked about zoning at least a little bit, that would have helped, that type of thing. So it was amazing to me the experiences I learned there in Union City and how that mixed with the police department background I already had. And then we had a very progressive ambulance service and fire rescue service there as well. So I really got kind of just immersed in local government services from across the board. And from there, of course, built a really firm, solid foundation. And then every community I went to, I was able to concentrate and focus on different skill sets. The latest being a lot of economic development over in Effingham, Illinois. Of course, Effingham is a very progressive community, industrial development, retail development, and being able to be involved with all the development coming into the city for the last 8 years has been very rewarding.
Well, let's just go ahead and talk about economic development in Paducah. I know you've mentioned to me before that you've been amazed by how much construction is going on in the city.
That's exactly right. It's always a good litmus test for your community, if you will, to see the building permits requests coming in, to see the construction equipment moving, the shovels going in the ground, that type of thing, because it equates to growth, especially when it comes in the realms of course, residential and commercial. Here you have a lot of retail activity. In fact, just over by the place I live, we have 2 different commercial facilities going up right now as we speak, and just that continued investment, if you will, from the people in the community into the community just shows you some spark of life, growth, energy, that type of thing. And of course, we see a lot of things going on in City Hall where potential investors and developers are bringing their businesses to the community. And of course, right now we have 2 industrial companies that are interested in coming into the community. One into the spec building out in the industrial park, as the other one being, of course, Gincana in the downtown facility. So really excited about those 2 opportunities as well. Of course, the job creation is good, but just the investment in the vacant buildings just shows you the reinvestment into the community and the growth.
What about the challenges that we face in economic development and just creating those higher level jobs, those higher paying jobs? We do seem to be getting a lot of good retail, great types of things like that, but what can a city do that we're not already doing? Yeah,
you're exactly right. I think it's a holistic approach to development, and then making sure that we're not just focusing on one aspect, we're looking at the entire spectrum, if you will, because basically when it comes to development, you got to think about who you're trying to attract to your community, how are you going to get them to invest in your community, what's going to make them want to invest in your community. Because when you're looking at a company, it's not just about filling a building, it's about making sure that company comes to town. One, they're welcome in your community. 2, they can find the workers for that facility. And 3, the people they bring with them have a place to call home. They have a community they can fit into and be a part of and welcomed by. And Paducah, as I mentioned to the city commissioners during my interview, has all that in spades. And of course, once I've actually relocated here, I've been living here now for 3.5 months, the community is welcoming. The community embraces anybody coming from the outside in. We want, of course, to grow the job base, and we have that ability through colleges just like this. We also have the University of Kentucky's Engineering School. We also have Murray State's presence with the 2+2 program. So we have post-secondary education as well as technical training that's available. And on top of that, you have the Sprocket and the Entre Paducah efforts to grow local businesses. So we're growing our own. We're catering to the needs of those who want to come to town by making sure there's the advanced training that's available for their employees, the technical skill sets, whether that be welding, advanced manufacturing, robotics. So we have what we need. It's just a matter of making sure that we're business friendly. when they come to town, and making sure that they feel like they could create their business the way they need to create it here to be successful.
So what is your thoughts on the other challenge that Paducah seems to face that has everybody scratching their heads? We have so many great things. We have the great infrastructure. We've got all of this great welcoming attitude, but our population is staying pretty flat. It rose quickly with the construction of the gaseous diffusion plant, and then since then we've lost several thousand people, and then we've been holding right around 25,000. It's one of those things that everybody just keeps scratching their head about.
Scratching your head is right. In fact, I find myself doing that.
Yeah.
I sit there and think to myself, what is it that's creating this plateau, if you will? And more importantly, if you go back 3 decades, what caused the decline in population? Because when you look around what's going on, you have the development. You have the quality of life. You know, you have the opportunity for growth, be it educational, cultural, spiritual. So we have what we need as a community to not only attract, but also to retain. And then we have opportunities here too for our high school graduates, you know, to be able to obtain their secondary education here, as well as if they choose to, come back, you know, for employment opportunities here. So, and be able to raise their family in a very safe community, which is great too. So I think for the most part, population has to be something that we don't do we don't take the passive approach to, but we need to make sure that we proactively focus on it. And what we can do to implement policies and procedures that is going to be proactive for growth. And when I say growth, it's going to be the holistic approach. It's going to be, as I mentioned before, it has to be the industrial base, it has to be your residential base, it has to be your commercial base, it has to be your cultural base, you know, your the quality of life. So basically we have to position ourselves with good policies and practices and procedures to make sure that we are doing all we can. And I know it's part of the strategic plan action steps is to focus on proactive strategies to not only stop the population loss, but more importantly, to increase it, you know, to make sure, not to increase the loss, of course, but to increase population. You know, and that's something that we're going to have to take it as a affirmative challenge. We just can't say we're going to passively look to see, you know, if we build it, they will come type of thing. We need to make sure we build it and then inspire them to come.
It's one of those things, I don't think we'll ever know the true factors of what has led to this plateau, but we need to be aggressive in figuring out how to bypass it.
That's exactly right. I think what's happened has happened, but I think what we need to do is actually make some intentional, furtive movements towards stopping the trend and increasing it. We're going to have a litmus test. You know, this is the 2020 census is just around the corner. You know, I know they're projecting, I've seen projections 30, 40 years out. They're looking at still the same thing, small growth or decline. And that's just not acceptable. You know, we have all we need here to be successful in Western Kentucky. You know, we're a draw from Southern Illinois, we're a draw from Southeast Missouri, so we have what we need. People can blame it on any factor that they want to, but I think we got to stop blaming it, maximize our strengths, and start moving forward positively. And I think we can get that done. Is it going to happen tomorrow? No. But then again, it didn't happen yesterday. It's happened over 3 decades. You know, so it's one of those things we just have to stop the trend and reverse it. And it's going to take time to do that. I'm really excited about that action step we're going to be working on, though. Of course, City Clerk Lindsay Parrish has been, she's our primary agent on that, if you will. She's the primary responsible party for that. It's a big task.
That is a huge one.
You know, but as I told her, she's not alone. We're going to work on it together, you know, and I'm looking forward to taking some steps in the near future to be able to kind of build on that. But it's going to take community partnership.
Yes.
It's not something the city can do, but it's something the city as a whole can, working with all of our partners.
And just the positivity of the whole community and all the partners are trying to address it positively. So
not trying to address it, but addressing it.
That's
what we got to do.
Okay, we have to change the mindset that we're not helpless. We've got to find ways to move forward.
That's right. That's exactly right.
Now, you've referenced the strategic plan. Tell me a little bit more about it.
Yeah, that's exciting. You know, I was charged with, if you will, prior to taking the job, the formulation of action steps for the strategic plan. The mayor and the Board of Commissioners, of course, working with the directors at the city level, as well as multiple community partners, identified core tasks they wanted to accomplish, and then we were charged with getting those action steps associated with those tasks, up and running, if you will. Now those, we have multiple action steps we're working on. We kicked it off last month. So basically we have 1 month under our belt, if you will. Most of them are there's a mixture of short-term and long-term action steps. All of them are underway. Some, of course, making more progress than others. But the good thing about those steps are, it's not just a typical plan that you would see that's kind of typed down on a piece of paper, set aside, and you forget about it. We're doing multiple things to make sure it doesn't occur, because it's important. A lot of those steps that we identified in the plan came from the community, came from conversations that the mayor and the Board of Commissioners had with the community. So it's important to the community, the population being one of them. So what we're doing is making proactive steps to make sure that we hold each other accountable for those steps. We've assigned primary responsible parties for each step. We're looking at developing partnerships, mainly almost for every step that's in the plan. We're sharing the action steps with the residents and the local businesses on our website. We're going through a separate marketing approach with the local business to help us get the word out more and more about what those steps are for the strategic plan. And then, of course, the monthly reporting holds us accountable for making sure, one, we know what's in the plan, and two, we're trying to accomplish the plan. So basically, every key individual that's charged with that action step either has to report monthly or quarterly on the progress they're making towards the completion of those action steps. Sharing that, of course, with the Board of Commissioners and the mayor once a month, and then also putting it online once a month as well. And then, of course, doing a news release or press release to show that it's there, encourage people to come and look at what we're doing. So it's one of those things where it's somebody might shake their head and say, oh, it's just another plan, until they realize it's not just another plan. It's actual steps that we're taking affirmative action on completing.
Right. When you look at it, because it is all online, if you just go to the city's website and search a strategic plan, you'll find it. It's not text laden. It is a worksheet, basically. That's right. And it has all the columns and what's going on, and then the last column's the update. So it is a work plan of our strategy. That's right. Kind of think of it in a different way.
That's exactly right. And they're going to see it change monthly. They'll see the updates monthly, and they'll see some that roll off because they're completed, and they'll see others that we're making some slow progress on because they're a longer-term population growth, being one of those. And there's some, like you said, there's some short-term ones that'll roll off pretty fast. The good thing also too about that plan, every time we put something on the commissioner's agenda, we have to reflect: is this part of the plan? And identify which section of the plan it is. We're also, during our leadership team meetings once a week, there will be a strategic plan section on there. So it's permanently part of that meeting. So we will engage weekly to say, hey, is anybody making progress? Anybody need any help with the thing they're working on? That type of thing. Just to make sure we're talking about it weekly. And then I think it helps us as a tool to hold us accountable, to hold each other accountable for what we have to do. Because when you actually are working on something, and of course, if nobody's going to ask you about it, I'll do it tomorrow, or I'll do it the next day, and the next day never comes. But when you know you're going to be asked about it, you know you have to report upon it, you want to make sure you're showing progress or completing it.
You mentioned a word that you have used a lot internally and externally: accountability. Tell me a little bit about what that word means to you and some of the initiatives. We have something internally called an accountability partners. Talk a little bit about that too.
I think accountability is well, I know it is. It's very important to me. It's very important to me. I think you have to make sure as a leader, you hold your co-workers and teammates accountable for their actions. At the same time, as a peer, you need to be held accountable for your actions. And I think through accountability, you're ensuring that you're making progress and you're getting things done. and making sure that your actions are and your speech that you the speech that you make and the actions that you take or what you desire to move the organization forward and to move yourself forward as a professional. Accountability partners, as you mentioned, is a way that you can do that one-on-one. I began that practice back in Effingham, where you would align yourself with the peer and then have them hold you accountable. And then at the same time, a week later, you hold them accountable. And then you give each other goals and objectives, and you work on what you want to do. And it helps you to develop as a person as well as a professional. And then here, what we did was we broke that out even farther, and of course we challenged the leadership team to have an accountability partner.
And my accountability partner is the Human Resources Director. And I have enjoyed our meetings because we bounce ideas. We talk about our accountability of what we need to get done, but we also bounce ideas off of each other. It is a true give and take, and as you told us when you told us the rules, it's confidential.
That's right.
It's you put things on a list and you hold each other accountable, but you're confidential, and it's your own internal discussion. It's a partner.
That's exactly right.
And it's worked really well. I've enjoyed it.
Yeah, I have probably 12 things on my list, 13 things on my list. Of course, my partner's the Assistant City Manager, Michelle Smolin. But yeah, and there's things I can tell you that are on my list that I wouldn't do, but I know they're on the list, and I know Michelle's going to ask me about it. You know, when it's my turn, so I don't want to call on the table. I'll call on the carpet, if you will.
Right.
So that's what it's about. It's making sure that you you challenge yourself with the things you put on the list, because as you know, you only put on the list what you want to put on the list. But once it's on there, it's on there. You can't take it off until your partner allows you to do that. So I think that's a great way of holding each other accountable and keeping each other engaged and effective. And what I like to do is when I go to my professional development trainings or through my readings, if I see something that interests me or it's going to challenge me, I put it on the list. And then I introduce that to the person at my next meeting with them. And then, of course, once it's on the list, they hold you accountable for getting it done.
Well, I've definitely enjoyed it, and I look forward to all of the other different internal things that you're going to get started, because a lot of these things, they can go for any company. These are great company-type business techniques. So one thing I've noticed about you in the few months that I've worked with you, you are full of energy. What energizes you internally for work and externally?
I think it's about working with the people, working with the team, and developing a team. I really enjoy that. Getting things done. I really enjoy that as well. Making sure that we're moving forward. As I told the Board of Commissioners, I really have a passion for moving the organizations forward, building teams, and also accomplishing things that the community wants to see done. And it really excites me. It energizes me. It's a great word. It energizes me, gets me going in the morning, and keeps me up at night. The same thing. It's one of those things where it's the challenge is real, and I enjoy the challenges. And then I also enjoy challenging myself more and challenging others, because I know the members of the team have the ability to overcome those challenges, and it helps them to grow. It helps them to develop as well.
Okay, what do you do when you want to check out of all of the city management stuff? What's your work-life balance? What are your hobbies? How do you challenge yourself to give yourself a break?
The struggle is real.
I know the struggle is real. You are always thinking and going.
That's still being worked on. Still being worked on. We have, of course, I spend a lot of time with my wife and read, so on and so forth. But then I always get sucked in. Instead of just reading for pleasure, I read for professional development, leadership, work-related stuff. Then I got to catch myself and wean myself off of that. But it's like a cycle, a vicious cycle, if you will, because I do enjoy the growth, that comes from constant development and reading, and then also sports. I enjoy running. I enjoy exercising. Lifting weights. So that's a way for me to unwind. Yoga. I do yoga from time to time. So another way to unwind. But other than that, it's the challenge is real with the work-life balance. Yes, it is.
Yes, because even those things, you'll get some clarity for a few minutes, but then you're energized again because a new idea pops into your head.
Right.
I've noticed that because I love to run, and after about 3 miles, I have a whole new crop of ideas. And
that's what I put on my accountability list.
Oh,
so I don't lose them. So they're there.
Well, my last question is, finish this sentence. My job as city manager is to?
That's a powerful question. Yes. It's city management is a very complex occupation, because you have to, it's almost like two different organisms. One, you have the internal workings of the city, at City Hall, and then, working with the team to manage a business.
Right.
Of course, you have infrastructure needs, your streets and the sidewalks that need to be maintained and improved, stormwater issues, flooding issues. Then you have, of course, human resources issues. You have rewarding employees, coaching employees, disciplining employees from time to time, unfortunately. And then, of course, you have to build the team, and continue to develop that team. And then, of course, on the flip side of that, you have the community.
Yes.
And then making sure the city is part of the community, not separate from the community. Sometimes there's a wall that's built from the city and the community, and so it's really one. But sometimes there's an invisible wall that's built up, and making sure, I think there's a key role of the city manager's office to make sure that wall is broken down, because we're only part of the community. We're not separate from the community. We need to be engaged with the community. Kind of a case in point, the Meet the Team event scheduled for later on this week, going out and having all the leadership team available for the public to come out and talk to in a neutral, casual setting. Sometimes, unfortunately, in local government, there's a intimidation factor when it comes to coming into City Hall. We don't see it because we work in City Hall.
Yeah, we work there, we don't see it.
We don't understand that some people may be intimidated to come speak to yourself or myself at City Hall, and that's not what we should be about. That's why I always kind of talk about trying to get out, let people know that just like them, we are human. Just like them, we work. Our jobs is hopefully to make their community better.
That's a great way to say it.
And to get their input and to engage with them, to find out we're going in the right directions, that type of thing, making sure that the actions we're taking are the actions that they want us to take to go in the right direction. So yes, I think city management's role is to work with the organization to make their lives better.
Well said. Well, thank you so much for joining me today.
Well, thank you.
I have enjoyed my time here with City Manager Jim Arndt. And once again, if you want to learn more about the City of Paducah, definitely visit the city's website, paducahky.gov. You can learn about the strategic plan, as well as all of our different initiatives that we have on there. And as a reminder, you can see this episode and much more on YouTube, as well as the city's website and all of our social media channels. Thank you again for watching Your City at Work.